This is Sharisse Coulter, and this is an awkward conversation with my friend Michelle. Michelle and I have been friends since our first year of college. Now you live in DC with your family.
We do.
I guess first of all, where are you from?
I was born in Guyana, South America, raised in the Virgin Islands, and that is still where I call home. The peculiar thing about certainly being raised in the Caribbean and then coming to the United States is that when you're raised in a culture where everyone looks like you, and where people of the highest echelon of society look like you, and people who are the most disenfranchised look like you, there's no awareness, there are no conversations about, well, you know, you have to work harder than everybody else because X, Y, and Z. I mean, the conversation may revolve around my womanhood, maybe, and that changes certain things, but it's certainly never about the color of my skin, and it's never about taking advantage of socially because of how I look. That is one difference that I have to be wary of, and I can see that, certainly in the current political climate. In terms of my children. So I'm having conversations with them that my parents never had to have with me because it was never an issue. Do you have that conversation and sort of put that into their minds?
Because you don't want to have to.
Or do you not and let them figure it out? The particular group that we were with was very split. Half were like, no, let the babies be pure and organic. You don't need to be having crazy conversations with them. They'll be fine. Then the other half was, you're crazy if you think that you can send them out here with, like, you know, unicorns and rainbows and think that there aren't other people who are going to have that conversation on your behalf, whether you want them to or not. You know,
so not even just that it would affect them, but like other people will talk to them.
It will affect them, and other people will talk about them, because if someone made some level of commentary about it and they don't know how to respond, they don't know how to articulate their thoughts because it's never crossed their minds, then people, as you know, will jump on the opportunity to be like, well, let me tell you how that works. You know what I mean? So we've sort of done like a hodgepodge of both. As they get older, the conversation changes. But right now, it's still sort of, it's a lot of unicorns and rainbows and like love and goodness and kindness, basic human stuff. And then some of it is a little bit of Miles coming home, for example, and being upset because they were playing this cookie world game at school, and there was a group of girls who insisted that he be the burnt cookie. Burnt cookie town was the bad town. So in general, no kid wants to be that. But then it sort of boiled down to this weird thing where I said, well, why do you think they wanted you to be the burnt cookie? And he was like, oh, because of my skin. And he's, you know, so I said.
And at what age was this?
Last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 8.
Yeah. The mama tigress in me wanted to crawl her little self, wanted to prowl and stalk some serious, like, damage controllers. No, seriously.
Take them down,
Take them down, which is so inappropriate. But, like, my instincts immediately kicked in. I'm like, oh my God, you know, we're not prepared for this. And I tried to allow him to sort of guide how he was feeling, as opposed to me like popping off and being like, oh, hell no, you know, type of thing. And little 5-year-old Tam popped up and she was like, burnt cookie? Oh no, you're our fresh baked cookies, smelling all good. Where the conversation comes in, where parents end up telling their brown children, you've got to be better behaved than all of the other kids because you're already starting at a disadvantage just by the way you look. That's why
you're being watched as soon as you go in. You're not being given.
That's correct. That's correct.
Lee and I had this conversation recently. We were leaving a store. I went to throw away the receipt, and he said, "You're not going to keep the receipt?" And I just looked at him like, "Why would I keep the receipt? That's ridiculous." He's like, in case they check it at the door. And I was like, oh yeah, nobody checks me. Ever.
No.
It did not occur to me that anyone would. And just the idea of like knowing on the flip side of that someone has noted your appearance, is watching what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And is waiting
Absolutely.
for you to step out of line.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's a very different thing.
It dawned on me that the taller and stronger and more manly that my, at the time, 7-year-old son got, the more of a threat he would be perceived walking down the street. Just period. I mean, what am I supposed to do as a mother? And then, you know, my wheels start spinning and I'm like, damn, my kid's gonna be 16 and like, you know, a hop, skip, and a jump. And I was like, girl, you better wake up and start recognizing what the value, yes, of your own experience and what I'll be able to give my kids because of that. But they're not going to be with me forever, despite what Miles says.
What do I do? I want to do something. I want to help, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know how to help.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, you know, I mean, I almost feel helpless. You know, it's so huge and not a part of my own childhood that I am processing it along with you. I can't dress him in bubble wrap and send him out there. And so when I feel as though his existence is threatened to other people because of his build, his face, his skin, you know, his existence, and he is walking to school or walking to a friend's house or going to pick up something for me at the store if he's of driving age, like, that is not reasonable. Like, that's not an okay thing for a parent to have to decipher. And you know, Miles is like, it doesn't come a lot sweeter than that. He is like, he's a snuggler and he's affectionate and
he's thoughtful.
And he's a good communicator and he's super proud of himself. And so you kind of like armor him with all of this deliciousness and then you get out there and like, he doesn't even have to say a single word before people are already making decisions about who in the group would have potentially done something harmful. There's nothing I can do about that.
Even so, between you and Ryan, your husband, do you feel like your experiences are significantly different?
Well, for one, I'm still a girl. There's still a lot that I can do to sort of assuage someone from, you know, whatever. And, you know, there's a lot of blinking and like, you know, I can like bobblehead and be like, oh my God, no idea, you know, and there is evidence that has worked a lot. And then he is a beautiful, tall black man with locks.
Right.
He certainly had his moments of being confused as to why he was involved in something that was clearly not the case. Like, you're driving a 1985 Mirage and it's 1997 and you're getting pulled over in a car with a bunch of your friends on the way to a club because, oh, there have been reports that these cars are being stolen in this area. And you're like, okay, sir. So in the beginning, you probably don't want to identify it for what it is, but when it happens continuously, then one, not only does it become obvious what's happening, but, you know, a coworker the other day was saying something to the effect of, if you just, you know, like when you see the police coming, if you just do what they say, there is no, if you do everything right, it will all work out. That's not realistic in any situation. No. Just because you show up to work every day and you do the work doesn't mean everything's going to turn out well. Right. The company can close, you can get fired, somebody pisses you off and you throw a stapler in their face. I've never had that one. I've never had that example. I've never personally had the desire to do that. But like, you cannot expect people to behave like robots. Right. And then in turn say, oh, well, if he had just done that, then that's not how it works.
I genuinely didn't know.
Yeah.
That this had been such a common thing for all this time. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, we just have cameras on our phones and they're on us all the time. So obviously that's made a big difference in like things like being able to live stream something.
Yeah.
I've been snarky with cops. I mean, I've been really quite rude when I've felt like, why are you harassing me? And no one has ever even flinched at the idea. Like, nobody thinks I'm a threat.
Of course not.
And I've never had to have that in my head. So I've responded in the way that I think anyone would who expects that, like, cops can't just kill you or shoot you or arrest you. Like, I mean, we have rules. They're supposed to work on both sides.
Yes.
So I've always been able to operate under the assumption that the rules work.
That's right.
And I will be treated fairly, which
That's right.
my guess would be that's your coworker's experience
That's
as well.
right. Yeah.
Like, I have to admit how ignorant I've been.
Yeah.
In part because
It's not your experience.
Right, it's not my experience, and I've just never encountered it. It was only when I saw like examples on TV and I was like, hey, that's not right.
When we talk about something like white privilege, it is not about what you have on face value. It is what the system provides you, the leg up that the system provides you on a rules and regulations basis that you can't see every day because you don't even realize how many passes you get because...
Well, that's in Brene Brown's, one of Brene Brown's books.
Yeah.
She talked about it. And
She's
I thought
amazing.
There was a really great definition, which was, it was like one of the kids in her class that, you know, they were talking about it. This one girl said, oh, I get it. My privilege is that I don't have to think about this all the time.
Absolutely.
I can set it down. If you can set down the idea of talking to your child about violence and how they may or may not be perceived by police or other people, that's privilege.
Yes.
If you don't have to deal with that as a daily thing, that is privilege.
Yes.
Which doesn't mean that it's a high bar.
No.
Privilege is not like, I'm living it up.
Correct.
There are no yachts involved.
There are no yachts involved. I mean, we want the yachts to be involved.
The bar is just, I can expect reasonably day to day that the laws and rules will apply to me as I was taught. So my ability to just set that aside is what my privilege entails.
But that's also because you recognize that there are things to pick up and put down.
Right.
Some people haven't even gotten to the point where they're willing to hear what other people have to go through just to get through a day.
Right.
Then you don't even realize how many of those items you can pick up and put down. You're shut down and shut off because this is a stupid conversation and you're sick and tired of people telling you that you're better off than you really are. We are at least having the conversation like you and I are doing, because without this conversation, we are dead in the water. And right now, everybody has sort of retreated to their corners with their little gloves up because nobody knows what's coming. Nobody knows, you know, what sort of vitriol and hatred and things that are just going to land on their doorstep. I make it my job to know what those conversations are. Because the moment I stop recognizing how privileged, #blessed, or whatever else you want to say about it, then the moment I am no longer paying attention to the plight of other people who are far more disenfranchised than I am. And that's really what the separation has to be. And at a certain point, you have to recognize, what do I know about that situation?
Sure.
Probably very little. I don't get to just prance in here and start, I mean, I do prance sometimes. Okay, another outtake moment. I don't get to just come in here and start talking to people about how I'm here to help you.
Right.
By helping is to listen. Listening is my own recognition about what I'm doing, where I'm going. And what I'm doing and where I'm going, the things I get to put down, things I get to pick up, what I give to my kids, what I give to my husband, what we do as a familial unit is the only way that I'm going to be able to fully recognize and help those who are truly disenfranchised.
Sure.
Because I can't just have it in my head about what I want to do and how I want to help. And then I get there and none of what I have in my head is what they need.
Right.
Because I actually don't know what they're dealing with.
Right.
And they is everyone.
Right.
You know, that's not to a particular...
No, I mean, I think that's one of the things that to me has been, I guess, missing from the privilege conversation is that I think that we're all privileged in different circumstances.
So the whole thing with men and women, you know, there's a lot going on in terms of this feminist movement, and men feeling as though they're sort of the target of this feminist movement because feminism is equivalent to we hate men.
Right.
And there's so much conversation. Please let it be known, this sister here does not hate men under any. I could not survive without my men's. I mean, now after seeing Wonder Woman, I'm like, well, with a little bit of training. Specifically in coming here, I think men are very surprised how often women respond and smile because they recognize that if they don't, they could be killed.
Right.
Like,
the don't
I
kill me
think
smile is...
The don't kill me
Yeah.
smile, and I know a lot of men who were particularly alarmed, offended, hurt. Some of them, you know, was an ego, like, you know, like, come on, what am I going to do?
Hilarious and charming. All women have always thought so.
And
You
more
can't possibly
importantly,
be
as
that
though
fair.
I can assess that. Say, like, especially if I was walking past a group of men, I would say hello before they had a
Preemptively.
chance to, so that already I am polite, I
Right.
have good manners, and you really don't have to say anything because I'm going to say it for you. I would
Right.
totally preempt. That worked like a charm.
Yeah, see, I use eye contact.
And they're always like, good morning. You know, there's
Right.
always like a, oh, that was
Right.
nice of that
Yeah.
lady to say hello to us.
Right. No, and I wear headphones and don't have
Right.
any music playing.
Exactly.
And so that way I can conceivably
Not
not have
have
heard
heard.
you.
Yeah.
And then my ignoring you is not a personal threat.
Correct. It's complicated.
Yeah.
You know, all of it. I mean, being women, being minorities, being different in any capacity on top of all of that. I mean, it just sort of, the pegs just sort of stack
Stacks up.
as you go along. It is my job. It is part of my personal privilege because I have the ability to, you know, communicate well, and I have the ability to talk to people from all sorts of different bizarre scenarios. It is my job to have a stronger backbone and put up with things that a lot of other people aren't willing to because I'm good at it. And so part of it is having this sort of conversation, being vulnerable in front of somebody else and allowing them to say, oh, well, it must be nice for you that you got to travel. Oh, it must be nice for you that you lived. Yes, it is nice for me. And so instead of being like, well, I mean, it wasn't always easy. There were things that
Right.
I had
You
to
don't
deal
have to
with too.
qualify it.
I don't have to qualify that. I'm like, girl, you are 100% correct. All of those experiences were super duper beautiful. Tell me about yourself. What are you doing? Where have you been? Where did you come from? You know, like, give mama all the information so I know what is going on. I don't have to be mad because what they're saying is true. And I acknowledge that, and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. So now that you see all of my little tools in my toolbox, pick one, honey. Like, let's do this. You know, let's start fixing some stuff and like building whatever and making you awesome, and so you can get out there and be great, and then be great for somebody else.
The other thing that I really wanted to talk to you about was the hair thing. Because this was something that even after you and I being friends for a very long time, and you know, when you said that like you would never wear your natural hair
Yes.
that way to an interview.
Yes.
Just the amount of thought
Yes.
that goes into it. Like, is it, because it's not like a written rule, is it? Like in a school system or in a workplace?
Well, this is where it gets real super ugly. Over the last 3 years, certainly publicly, there has been this thing that is happening with our young Black girls, particularly school-aged girls. Black women's hair has always been complicated, and there's not enough time in the world on this video to even get into it. When Black women started to become part of society, there was this whole Eurocentric idea of what beauty was. And that involved pressing and straightening your hair to make yourself whiter, for all intents and purposes, to make yourself fit in. You know, you want the bouncy curls, and because everything, all products, all hairstyles, all everything are geared towards women who have straight, long hair. And so in an effort to assimilate to that, then we started relaxing our hair with these extraordinarily dangerous and very painful, I mean, you're using lye to...
You're using lye?
Lye.
Like the stuff that if it touches your skin, you have to wash off with vinegar because otherwise it'll burn your skin.
You are using lye to straighten, to really burn your coils into
It's like Drano.
submission.
Like, yeah.
Oh, I know. Ask my 12-year-old scab. Thanks, Mom. Ask my 12-year-old like scabs on my head because Sandra was busy popping and snapping gum and didn't wash it out of my hair on top. Like,
Oh.
just Google it.
Yeah.
It's ugly, girl. About 10 years ago, I don't know what it really sparked from. I think women were just trying to take back their identity and feel like, I no longer want to go to the salon every 6 to 8 weeks and have someone slather lye on my hair. Then, companies started to notice, products started to be made, and all of these things. So fast forward to about 3 years ago, publicly, there were these things where little girls who were wearing their natural hairstyles were being kicked out of school, were being suspended, expelled, because in the manuals it says your clothing, your hair, accessories are not to be, quote, distracting. So the rules aren't written to say you can't have black hair growing out of your head.
Right.
They couch it in language like distracting.
Right.
And then my hair is like this, or even bigger, I have a little fro. Mm-hmm. And then they say, oh, well, your hair is distracting, so you're breaking the code, you're violating the school code, and you're going to be in detention. Mm-hmm. And you come back the next day and your mom is like, this is the hair that grows out of your head, and you're going to go to school with whatever the hell you want to on your hair. And then that's distracting again. So now you have a 8th grader who is expelled from school, and her mom has to go fight the school district to be like, can my daughter come to school with the hair that grows out of her head? The newest one that I love, in their handbook, not only was the hair not allowed to be distracting, you were not allowed to have any obvious delineation between the haves and the have-nots, basically. You can't be flashy and showy.
Right, sort of the concept behind school uniforms.
Exactly. So these girls showed up in braids, mm-hmm. and the school said, not only is your hair distracting, that probably cost what? $100? Other girls who can't have extensions will look at that and feel like you're behaving in a way that makes you seem like you're better than they are because you have $100 extensions and they can't afford it. So take your hair out.
But don't take your hair out either.
And if you do take it out, you need to tame it and make sure it's not too big. Things that are written in code.
Yes.
That immediately disenfranchise one group of people, mm-hmm. but it's couched in a very sort of generalized, oh, well, if somebody else did that, then we would say the same thing. Yeah, but Sharisse's hair is never going to look like mine. I mean, I've had my natural hair for over 10 years, but I would never go to an interview with my natural hair. Now, that's because I'm working on myself and getting myself to a point where I don't have to care, but I work in the legal field in Washington, D.C., and it matters. It matters, particularly in the circles that I want to be in, until it doesn't matter. And I'm not at the stage of my life yet where it doesn't matter.
You want to accommodate the status quo in order to just get where you want to go, because that's much easier.
It's much easier, and truth be told, right now, that's where I feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Will they look at me and think, can we take her to the White House with that hair? When our clients come in from Michigan and you're talking about a bunch of farmers and people who just don't experience a lot of diversity, very nice people, but just, whatever. Is this distracting? Mm-hmm. Is this something where we can present her to clients without them thinking that she's coming in here as a angry black woman? Because that's what this whole natural hair movement has been attached to. Because it's like the 60s revolution,
right.
And women were wearing massive fros and their picks, and it was a statement piece. It was to say we will not bow down to these Eurocentric values or ways of beauty, and then we went away from that, and now we're back. Mm-hmm. But we're back in a different sentiment,
right.
and but they can't turn off what it
right.
was. I know that I will get to a point where none of this matters. And day to day, it doesn't matter. I wear my hair like this to work. But there was a lot of thought that went into between them hiring me and washing my hair one Sunday and deciding, I don't feel like blow drying this today. So this is what they're going to get tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I showed up and there were probably a couple of oh, who's that? What?
Became an entirely new person.
What? Oh, fancy new hair. It doesn't matter what I do. Oh, don't you look like sunshine?
Thank you for doing the interview with me. I know this wasn't your,
Thank you.
your top priority.
Do you know why? Because she's had me up until the crack of dawn every day.
No. You love it.
Don't let this sunshiny blonde hair, this sunshine hair fool you. See?
Yeah.
It was
Maybe
a pleasure.
I've used that once or twice.
Maybe. I mean, I've even used it once or twice. You know? Thank you for doing this. I mean, you're changing people, the world. It seems so big and something so small, but it's really valuable, and it's a beautiful thing that you're doing to open yourself to your own vulnerabilities and misunderstandings and wanting to grow and process and be beautiful and all these things. So, my friend, I am grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Hey.